Здорово, чуваки, с вами Грязный Дварф с отличным интервью с каким-то там Тоади. Ну, вы же его знаете, да? Ну, тот чувак, который Cobalt Quest сделал. И, кажется, еще Dwarf Fortress там. Ну, в общем, да. Честно говоря, к интервью мы шли долго и очень болезненно, поэтому спасибо всем тем, кто мне с ним помог. В первую очередь, спасибо, конечно, тем, кто помог мне составлять вопросы. Без них интервью вообще бы не получилось или был бы полным говном. Также спасибо одной дворфийской имиджборде за крайне веселую беседу на тему интервью. Еще я хотел бы поблагодарить определенного Егора за то, что он беседовал с Тоади на английском. И, безусловно, мне стоит поблагодарить Дримкиллера за его редакторскую деятельность и Никиту Архарова за отличную веб-камеру, на которой все записывалось. А вот Скайпу за крайне плохую связь и страшные лаги на видео совсем не спасибо, в общем-то. Что ж, кстати, возможно, будет еще одно интервью рано или поздно. А теперь погнали. Good afternoon, Mr. Adams.
Hello? Is that it? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it. This is my colleague called George, and he will translate my questions to English.
Good afternoon, Mr. Adams. We're really pleased to have you here today. So let me thank you for joining us. And from now, I will translate my colleague's questions because he has a Serbian accent like this, you know. So let us begin.
Вообще, как ваши дела? Легко ли было найти время для этого интервью?
So how's it doing? Was it easy to find time for this interview?
Yeah, I have a pretty flexible schedule, so and you guys were nice enough to record at night over there, so it was easy for me to find time. I don't know about you.
Well, that wasn't very easy for us because it's because it's late night. But that's not a problem. So, the first question. Would you please tell us about your nickname? Where Toaди come from? And what it stands for?
So, when my brother and I were kids, we lived with our parents down in California, in the western United States, and we had a pond in the backyard, and to keep water in it, it's pretty dry out there, so to keep water in it, we had a cement. We made a concrete bottom for the pond, and when it was drying, we knew there would be a lot of toads in the area, so we called it a Toaди the Great Production, and we started calling all of our video games Toadi the Great Productions from then on out. And eventually, when much later on, when we made the website in like the year 2000, we decided that I would be Toadi and he would be Three Toe because of his guinea pig is named Three Toe.
That's really interesting. Тоади, а как вы вообще пришли к разработке Dwarf Fortress? Это какая-то мечта из детства или что-то другое?
So how did you came up with thought of creating Dwarf Fortress? Was it maybe a dream of childhood or something else?
Well, we've always been working on kind of a fantasy game, sort of. They were role-playing games at first. And Zach and I had been working on them, I don't know, the last 20 or more years. But the Dwarf Fortress itself with the dwarves was a strange story because we were working on. I don't know if you saw Slaves to Armok, God of Blood, the really bad game that we made before Dwarf Fortress. It was going nowhere because of the 3D graphics and other problems with it. So we were making a side project called Mutant Miner. It's a kind of a sci-fi game about mining into a moon or something and wiping mutating substances on yourself so you grow extra arms and can mine faster and so on. It was a strange game. But eventually we decided to make that into a fantasy game with dwarves mining. It was just a sort of random idea that we'd have you'd have some dwarves go down and dig some tunnels, and then you'd have an archaeologist or adventurer kind of go into the ruin of the fortress and find their treasure, and that would be you'd get a high score. It would be like a little arcade game kind of, but it became a larger and larger game as it started taking ideas from Armok, because Dwarf Fortress was text and Armok was graphics, so Dwarf Fortress moved much faster and started stealing all of the ideas, and then it just became this giant game again that we always had been working on.
Эх, хорошо, давайте немного поговорим уже более так подробно о вашем детище. Ведь именно это интересует наших всех зрителей. Как вы вообще пришли к этому всему. Вот почему вы выбрали именно дварфов, там, не людей, там, не кобальдов, а все-таки именно дварфов?
Let's take a bit about your game. How did you came up with the idea of dwarfs? Why dwarfs? Not humans, goblins, or any other race, but dwarfs.
It's because when we came from this mining game, this little mining arcade game, we originally had one miner moving around, and we wanted to have more miners. And when we had several miners, the game started not working because it was a turn-based game, and so one miner would move, and then the other miner, and the other miner was just a bad idea. And so when we switched over to making it real time, that was also the same idea when we decided to make it a fantasy game instead of a sci-fi game. And then there's only one fantasy race that digs. The dwarf is the only one that digs holes in the mountains and so on, so it had to be dwarves.
Yeah, I see. Также... кстати, тут ходят слухи, будто бы вы выбрали дварфов не потому, что они там круто копают, а потому, что вы являетесь земным воплощением Армока. Это правда?
So, there are some rumors that say you have chosen dwarves not because they are race that dig, and because you are reincarnation of Armok. Are these rumors true or?
I think the originally we were thinking that the person that plays the game slaves to Armok, god of blood, is Armok, because all of the poor creatures in the game have to go through the horrors that you put them through, and they're all dying and being chopped to pieces while you laugh at them. And so I think we're all Armok.
Yeah, chopping other people to pieces is cool.
Yes, you are Armok.
Вообще, что для вас было самым трудным в процессе разработки игры?
What was the most difficult part of development process?
Oh, there's lots of hard parts, but I think the main thing that's been difficult is the speed of the game, keeping it playable at all. You know, it's very slow, right? It's a very slow game, and there are hard parts like the fluids, the water flowing around, making sure that goes very fast enough, and cave-ins, making sure that those work fast enough, and all of the path finding and all of that. It makes the game slower and slower and slower and slower. And it's tricky to get that to work, and it's gotten to the point now where I'm not really a good enough programmer to to do a very good job, but we're doing our best.
Okay, I see. And теперь немного провокационный вопрос. Что вы можете сказать про Гномория?
Okay, let's get a little bit spicy now. What can you say about a project called Gnomoria?
Gnomoria. I never played it, so I don't know that much about it. But it seems like it's a dwarf. Is one of the Dwarf Fortress like projects?
Yeah, it's like Dwarf Fortress, but it's a really shitty game.
I never played it, so I'll have to take your word for it. I know I don't know many people that said it was super super cool. So
Max, that's just your own opinion. Max, my 5-year-old brother plays it almost every day. I think you're just too
He is a
old for this.
tastemaker. Your 5-year-old brother is going to be the future.
Хорошо. А что бы вы порекомендовали делать начинающим игрокам, которые только впервые запустили игру? Куда им вообще стоит податься в первую очередь?
Okay, what would you recommend to a player who has just discovered the huge game universe? What should they do first?
I think if they're having trouble learning to play the game, I think the many languages have a wiki now. Is there a Russian wiki?
Yeah, there is a Russian wiki.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
really cool.
So the wikis are very good, and YouTube channels are very good. There are some online written tutorials as well. In English, there's a book now, so there are many ways to learn the game. And I would say that if you're having any trouble at all, don't be afraid to go look around, because everybody needs some help. It's not. I've done a bad job. It's not an easy game to learn.
Yeah, you are right. Так, также не могу не спросить. Дядь Жаб, а когда апдейт?
we just can't keep this question any longer. When will the new update will be
Okay,
released?
so we just got through the feature list a few days ago, and now we're doing bugs. I fixed 10 bugs today. There's another 300 something bugs to go, and we're just working on it. And when I get through enough of those, it'll be ready, but it should not be too long now. I think the worst would be 2 months, but you know, when I make estimates, I screw up. I've been screwing up for a long time now. You know how bad. You've seen some of my other estimates. They've been terrible. So I try my best. And we're in good shape now. We're just fixing bugs. And as you know, we don't fix all the bugs because Dwarf Fortress is crap and always has bugs. So you won't have to wait forever.
Yeah, баг за ткани. А стоит ли нам ждать возможности возвращения дворфийской экономики без известного всем бага?
So, shall we expect the coming of dwarf economy back, but with that famous bug finally fixed?
I think we will get it when we do the taverns and inns now. That's the, do you know taverns and inns for dwarves, when you can have people staying in your fortress and so on, just having visitors and doing better trade. And that comes after we do the hill dwarves outside of the fortress. So it's not too far away, and this time it'll have to stay. The economy is not going away again once it comes back. So we have to fix everything. So it'll be not too long. That whole taverns and inns and hill dwarves.
That's cool. А также хотел бы спросить, научатся ли гоблины рыть подкопы во время осад, а также ломать мосты, которые играют роль ворот?
Will goblins gain ability to dig underground routes or maybe break bridges used as the gates during siege?
That is the plan. The plan is that, yes, they will eventually be able to do that. They probably won't be as good as dwarves. They'll probably dig slower. But, I mean, I understand the concerns of some people that like to have kind of a perfect fortress, and they don't really like to be bothered by the invaders and so on. But if you choose to have invaders, I mean, they're not there to be your little friends or whatever. They're there to cause trouble in any way that they possibly can. So I don't think they won't know where your fortress is, so sometimes they might dig the wrong way or something. But it should be fun to watch. But that's the idea. They're going to be able to break down any door, break down any bridge. And there's just going to be some other, I guess there will be people, I've already said that they will make their fortress into a cube surrounded by water, and then there'll be an airlock or something so that they can go out through the water or whatever. I don't know what the goblins will do about that. So there'll always be some trick or something that will let you get away from the sieges, but if you're that concerned about it, you could just turn them off.
Окей. Хорошо, а будет ли в игре реализована полноценная дипломатия? То есть можно ли будет взаимодействовать с другими крепостями в сферах там торговли, внешней и внутренней политики, ну и так далее?
Okay, is there any chance that diplomacy will be evolved to include economic and political relationships between different fortresses?
Yes, we already are taking some steps toward that slowly now, because we have in the new version we have all of the new fortress maps and the new setup with the nobility and the hill dwarves and the armies moving around. So we didn't have anything before, right? We did world generation, then world generation stopped and the world was dead. And it's finally time to start thinking about that kind of thing. We definitely want to do, you know, the really bad trade agreements we have now, for instance, those are going to be redone.
Well, that sounds really great. Хорошо, а теперь про режим приключенца. Будет ли в нем реализовано свободное общение с NPC?
Now about the adventure mode, will interactions with NPCs become richer?
For next time even, yes. The next release will have better NPC interactions. The conversation engine is completely rewritten now. It's very different. And it keeps track of your individual reputation, your reputation with family groups and larger groups, your reputations with civilizations. civilizations or town rulers have been split from cultures, so there can be different cultures living in the town that think things about each other, and all of your companions keep track of exactly why they are with you. And they don't just need to kind of come along, I want to die with you or whatever like it does now, and then they stay forever no matter what you do to them. Now they know why they're there. And there are still, if you go into a bar, you can still pick up some drunk who will stay with you forever. But most people are guides, or they're there to help you rescue a kidnapped child, or there to help you overthrow a ruler of a specific town, and then they can choose to stay or not afterward. But it's getting better. I mean, it's not great yet, but it's getting better.
Well, it's great to hear it from you. Также есть еще один вопрос по режиму приключенца. Будет ли в нем возможно обзавестись семьей и вести оседлую жизнь там с земледелием и животноводством, к примеру?
Okay, another question on that. Are you going to add an ability to get family and settle down and concentrate on farming?
It was always a plan to have all of the things you can do in dwarf mode be something that you can do as an adventurer, so that you could build your house, you could have livestock and pets. And this is on the development pages. We have the list of things that we wanted to do to start to have pets and being able to have a property or a home. And there's also the idea that you would be able to settle down with the family and so on. That raises questions about exactly how dating is going to work and courtship and all that. And I'm sure we'll do a very terrible job with our poetry generator. But it's in the plans. It's hard to say when we'll get to that one. We definitely want to do the kind of skills stuff first, just because that's very basic, having your adventure be able to do those things. And then the social relationships, it's trickier, but we'd like to do it. All of the others can do it, so why not you? We even have people in the new version, they will get married and have children after world generation. So the regular people will do that, and the world will continue to live. So it's like you're the only one that can't do it now. Left out.
Хорошо. Скажите, а вы не боитесь, что в скором времени игра дорастет до такого размера, что даже средненькие компьютеры просто не смогут протянуть даже минимальные самые локации?
Did you ever came up with the thought that the game can get so massive that medium PC hardware wouldn't be enough for loading even tiny parts of the map?
Yeah, it's already broken when you do a larger world and you try and embark with a large fortress. You'll get more than 2 gigabytes of memory used and it will crash. So we need a 64-bit compile so that you can use more memory. And so it's already happening that we've. But this is not because the game is super large. It's just because we were sloppy. It can. If you're careful, you can grow with the technology, and it's certainly, we don't need to be greedy and have giant maps and so on. It would be nicer to have more stuff loaded than we can run, but there are lots of things going on. So we just have to be careful, and I think it's, even if you can't do everything you want to do, it'll be good enough.
Okay, that's great. Скажите, а когда примерно вы планируете выпустить 1.0 и по каким критериям вы будете оценивать готовность игры?
Okay, then, when are you planning to release version 1.0, and how would you know that the game is ready?
So we have a list that we've had for a very long time of the stuff that will be in 1.0, and then some things that won't make it to 1.0. So at the rate we are going, we started in 2002, and we got serious in 2004 about Dwarf Fortress. And it seems like it will be 20 years to finish 1.0. Now, we've been going on Dwarf Fortress for 12 years, so it's, you know, we're going to be, the new version is going to be 0.40. So that's 40%. That's pretty good. That's, you know, almost halfway. And if we keep working hard, you know, maybe we'll get it a little bit before 20 years, but it will be a long time. But you look young. You'll still be here. And hopefully I'll make it.
Yeah,
I'll make it.
Right.
We'll still be here. I'll be 56 years old, but we'll still be here. And yeah, it'll
That's
be there.
cool.
It'll work. It's all gonna work.
А вы никогда не думали о том, чтобы взять, допустим, в свою команду молодых энтузиастов, которые всегда готовы помочь в разработке?
Did you ever thought about accepting help from, you know, enthusiasts who are willing to help development process?
So we had a guy help us with the graphics because I didn't know what I was doing, right? And so he moved me from OpenGL that was 10 years old to OpenGL that was newer and got us onto Linux and Mac. And that worked. That worked well. And I still talk to him sometimes, but he went off and he's got a job, so he can't help so much anymore. But when it comes to the actual sort of programming, it's more difficult to think of how that would work. I'm not a kind of project organizer. I don't know how to run a studio. And I don't really know much about programming with other people. And it's already hard enough looking at the new graphics code that he wrote. I don't really understand it. And so if someone wrote something for Dwarf Fortress and I just didn't know what was going on, didn't understand it, would have to coordinate and figure things out. And I'm not sure how much faster it would go. I mean, I think if you started from the beginning with a plan that was structured around multiple programmers, then you can build the program out. And maybe someone will do that and will actually get a much larger program done, you know, before we even get to 1.0. Hopefully it'll happen. There'll be some cool computer games out there, you know, that are complicated like ours is. And you know, who knows what's going to happen? But it's really hard for us to use that kind of help. Now, people have done things like Stone Sense and so on with graphics and so on, and they did that. I mean, they just did that themselves. I don't know how they did it. They're, you know, they figured out how to glue it into the program and add graphics and stuff to it. So it seems like it's going to happen anyway, whether we do it or not. And you know, we do help those people whenever they ask us questions. So you know, that's all I've got.
Yeah, that's good. Хорошо, а вы не думали когда-нибудь ближе там к релизу выйти на Kickstarter?
Okay, when the release will be closer, are you going to use crowdfunding, you know, Kickstarter, for example?
I'm not sure really what I do with the money if I can't hire other people. We've kind of been doing Kickstarter all along for 7 years now. We ask for money, people send us money, and then we send them little rewards. We send them cran stories, cran art and stories, and so on. It's kind of like Kickstarter already, except we're just getting as much money as we need. We don't really know what to do with more, so it's all good right now. Yeah.
Okay, I see. Тут, кстати, клевые парни из русского комьюнити предложили ввести в игру менеджера животноводства. Что вы об этом думаете?
Okay, then, so some badass guys from Russian DF community suggested it would be nice to have, you know, animal management elements added in game. And how do you think is possible?
You said animal management?
Yeah, that's right. It's like
Farming, something like farming.
It's like I think.
Because yeah, I mean, right now the pastures are very bad. All the elephants starve to death.
Yeah,
and
that's
people
right.
want to be able to castrate their kitty cats and so on, and so there's no more kitty cats. Cat farmers. Yeah, I mean, the whole farming question is there's so much to do. The farming is so bad now. And I haven't thought about how it's going to work because I've always been delaying on that because of all the dwarves that are going to live outside the fortress is going to change everything. I mean, are they going to make most of the food? Are you still going to make most of the food? Are you going to be farming as much as they are? Is your farming more going to be for fun and the ones outside are doing the important stuff? Or can you still have an enclosed fortress that doesn't have those things outside? And then we'd really need to work on, I think that's still going to happen, that you really need to sort that stuff out. But yeah, I mean, I'm still not sure what's going to happen. But I know that it's bad now. I know that.
Хорошо. А будет ли в игре в ближайшее время введена возможность брать в рабство, допустим, каких-нибудь гоблинов или других злых парней?
Is there any chance to have an ability to convert captured enemies into slaves in the future, or some goblins, for example?
I think we need to have something that you can do with the prisoners. You can't even release them now without just killing them. So I'm not sure about what dwarves do and what choices people should have, because kind of the dwarf in the game doesn't keep slaves. The humans keep slaves and the goblins have slaves, but the dwarf doesn't. But should the player have the choice to kind of bend the rules for dwarves and become dwarves that do whatever they want? It seems like it. I'm not sure when that's going to happen. I have had more people asking me about it. I've had some people that just feel bad. They feel that they don't like to have prisoners that they just have to kill. They'd like to be able to execute them cleanly. They'd like to be able to chop their heads off or something. Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to think about it. I'm not really sure how prisoners should be treated, but it is strange now that you can capture everything in cages and then you just have to leave them in the cage or release them in some kind of gladiator pit or something. But it needs some work. I agree.
Хорошо, а стоит ли нам ждать возможности брать штурмом поселения других цивилизаций и основывать сразу несколько крепостей, а также переключаться между ними? Или же вы планируете сосредоточиться на проработке взаимодействия только с одной крепостью?
Okay, are you planning to add an ability to conquer other fortresses or maybe found several fortresses? Or would you like players to concentrate on just one settlement and aim development in this direction?
No, we're absolutely adding the ability to send out groups and attack other places. We've thought about how we could even load up 2 sections of the map and you could swap between them, so you could actually command your forces while your fortress is still working. And we think it would definitely be possible. And the one tricky part of this is that fortress time moves very quickly. The days pass very quickly, but when you get out on the world map, then though your armies would be zipping around very fast if we use the same speed for all the modes. And it's tricky to figure out how that's going to work, if the whole world is going to be slower when you're running a fortress versus an adventurer, or whether your armies will just kind of instantly go where they're supposed to go and then it pops up the screen. That's strange too, right? So it's there are some technical questions, but one of the reasons we're adding dwarves outside the fortress is so that your armies will be larger than just 50 dwarves, that you'd actually be able to command hundreds. It'll be very good.
Yeah. Хорошо, а есть ли у вас какие-либо планы на увеличение флоры и фауны?
Maybe any plans for new creatures or plants?
I didn't understand.
My colleague is asking about your plans for maybe new creatures or plants.
Oh, new creatures? Yeah. So this coming version, we are just adding plants, lots of plants, right? 140 plants, and there aren't any new creatures. Well, no, that's not true. We have some new randomized creatures. Do you know the Forgotten Beasts, right? They have their random bodies and so on. We're experimenting with new random creatures, and we're not quite sure, like, do we want more real world creatures? Do we want more creatures that we make up ourselves, or should we focus on the random creatures? So we're working a little bit more with random creatures to see, because if we have the game coming up with the ideas, they'll be sometimes they'll seem similar to each other or so on, but you do get some interesting things to happen too. So we're still toying around with that.
Хорошо. Есть какие-нибудь планы на добавление новых рас?
Well, do you have any plans about new races, maybe?
So like intelligent civilizations and stuff like that, or is that what you mean? Yeah.
Yep.
Again, it's pretty similar. Now we have all of those animal people, right, that are supposed to kind of have a civilization but don't have a civilization yet. We need to sort out the animal people at some point, and then after that, we want to experiment with the generated or random civilizations. I mean, because you can add a new kind of humanoid or a new kind of orc or whatever, but it would be nice to see what happens if the computer comes up with the creature and gives it a civilization with all of the parameters we have in the text file. And if is it going to be too ugly or inconsistent or not make any sense if you make that, or does it work? Because if it works, that'd be fantastic. Then we don't have to think too hard anymore. But we may, if it fails miserably, then we'll have to start thinking about new races.
Окей. А есть ли в планах добавление в Dwarf Fortress поддержки виртуальной реальности, к примеру?
Конечно. Okay, do you have any plans on adding virtual reality technologies in game mechanics?
Like the Oculus Rift or what?
Yeah, Oculus Rift.
Yeah, there's a big
HD graphics.
The big ASCII
3D.
around your face. Yeah, I haven't thought about it at all, but I'm sure that's not going to stop other people from just doing it. So it'll be interesting to see when they get the ASCII wrapped around your face. It'll happen. I'm sure it'll happen.
Хорошо, а еще говоря о технологиях, верите ли вы, что рано или поздно, причем я не исключаю, что в Dwarf Fortress, боты перестанут быть просто кусками кода и обретут собственное сознание, мысли, память, ну и так далее?
Talking about the technologies, do you believe that NPC will ever stop being just parts of the code, and will get their own intelligence, memory, and identity? I know it sounds like something fantastic, but
I think they are already slowly getting these things. It now stores who they know and what they think of certain people. The NPCs now have different ideas about their rulers, for instance. Different ones will think different things about their rulers based on their personality, and whether or not they know you will determine whether they lie to you about it, and so on. We're slowly building that up. It's very difficult to get an NPC that acts like a person, but it's something that we want to do because we don't have a script and we don't have a story with characters. We need to get as close as we can if we're going to do an RPG, right? It's the adventure mode in particular. If you want to be at all close to an RPG, you need good characters, and it's something we're working on. They still kind of have the same words come out of their mouths, right? One will say something and the other one will say the same thing because it's difficult to make more dialogue. But it's there are a lot of problems, but it's something we're working on.
Окей, that's cool. Тут, кстати, подкинули интересный вопрос. Если бы у вас была возможность перезаписать с нуля саундтрек игры с абсолютно любым исполнителем, то на что бы был похож этот саундтрек и кто бы его исполнял?
Okay, another brilliant question from our viewers. If you could get any band or any musician for in-game soundtrack, what would be your choice and how would the soundtrack sound?
Oh, I don't know. This is a difficult question. I have three toe. What do you think? Soundtrack for Dwarf Fortress. What would be the best band to do the soundtrack for Dwarf Fortress?
My brother's guitar music.
He said I should just keep the same guitar music. That's not no. But I don't. I mean, it is such a violent game. It seems. Yeah. I don't know if anything works.
But violent is fun.
Yeah. No, it's so that's so it needs. I don't know if it needs some kind of metal soundtrack or something. But then, I mean, you'd be taking care of your sheep and stuff, and it's like I don't know about that. If that's gonna work. It's hard to find something that works for the different moods, right? It has to be up and down and up and down. I don't know. It'd have to be one of those. One of the bands that has the loud and quiet sections, right? And they wouldn't match up with your. They wouldn't match up with what's going on in the game, so it'd have to be procedural. It'd have to kind of cut their music in and out. But yeah, I'm sorry I couldn't name one for you, because I'm not really sure what the good answer is.
Окей. А было ли у вас вообще когда-либо желание ввести в игру мультиплеер, где игроки могли бы там помогать друг другу или же наоборот мешать?
Okay, did you ever wanted to add multiplayer where players would be able to help each other or to disturb each other?
Well, so I personally never played multiplayer games, so I don't really understand them either. So I never thought about it that much. I mean, so many people like multiplayer games now on the internet. You know that people play them all the time. That it's people ask oftentimes what should happen, and you know, I don't know how to do any of that, so I never thought about servers or how the thing would communicate. You know, I was always just like, well, should you be able to save a caravan to a file and send it to somebody, and then they can load it, or send them an army, or they don't know if it's an army or a caravan and they can load it. You see, that's how I think about multiplayer, is like files and stuff. I don't know about server packets and all that kind of thing. But there's also the ones where people, you know, save their games and send them to each other. So you can kind of do multiplayer Fortress that way, but not actually playing with each other. Although I think someone made a thing where you both can control the keyboard at the same time. I don't know how it works, but that must be a lot of fun. Maybe if you give someone the cursor keys and someone the letters, then it would work. But yeah, I'm not really sure about. Are there games where you can both control kind of a whole fortress? I mean, I don't even know multiplayer games like that, rather than just one person. Like, I don't even know how it would work. I mean, I can understand, like, if you were both running fortresses and you could do some kind of, like, you watch your armies move toward each other, something like that, and that would require some kind of persistent server, like a big world server. And I think there are games like that now, maybe a few games where everyone has their own town or something like that. So I mean, it's theoretically possible to do it, especially if you have your own fortress running on your own computer, and then you can kind of export up to the server map the things marching around, so there's kind of two separate modes. But I wouldn't know the first way to program that myself.
Yeah, that sounds good. Скажите, а есть ли у вас какой-нибудь любимый баг, который позже стал фичей? А если есть, то какой он?
Okay, do you have any, you know, favorite or the bug that you love? Are there any famous ones that are now part of game features? So, you know, sometimes it's happened like it was bug and became a feature.
There must be. I remember that happening a few times. I don't know if it was something about how people caught on fire or something. I mean, my favorite bug was the hammer without arms. You hear about the hammer without arms? That was great fun. The hammerer, both of his arms were broken, but he had to go execute somebody. So when he went over, he somehow grabbed the guy. I don't know how he grabbed the guy and pulled him over and put him in the chains. But he didn't have his hammer. But the code says you must attack. You know, you must hit him. And so the hammer didn't have any choice. He had to bite. He bit with his teeth. He bit the prisoner until the prisoner died. And he bit off the prisoner's arm and carried it in his mouth for years. And that was my favorite. That's the kind of game it is. But I like the one where the farmer took a bed and just planted it in the farm. That was funny. He must have thought it was a seed. I guess the items got screwed up. But yeah, as for features, I'm not sure. I believe it's happened, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Окей. А теперь вопрос, который не дает спать уже лично мне несколько лет. Почему эльфы такие странные? Они вроде как против рубки леса, но сами ходят в деревянной броне и пользуются деревянным оружием. Более того, они идут с этим оружием осаждать дварфийские крепости. Неужели они не понимают, что адамантин может прорубить дерево?
Okay, and now my friend would like to ask a question that bugs him for ages. So why are elves so weird? They're against they're against chopping the forest, but they use wooden armor and weapons. And seriously, don't they understand adamantine can easily slice the wood?
So they grow the trees. They grow the trees into the shape of the weapon they want to use. This is new information, I think. Maybe it was in one of Zach's stories. They can grow the trees into shapes. So that makes them a little bit better. I mean, they still are very stupid about things, and they will use anything the dwarves made with burned wood as long as they don't know about it. They just assume it was coal from the mountain instead of charcoal from the trees. And they're I don't remember what they think of cheese and things like that, but the elves are a little strange, and eating people is bad. They shouldn't do that. But I think we're trying to make them more consistent with the wood, but it had to make them kind of magical or something to do that, right? Because they don't make any sense otherwise. But that's the idea.
That will be cool. Помнится мне, что вы когда-то говорили, что, мол, в Dwarf Fortress рано или поздно будет прям приемлемый интерфейс. Не в нашей жизни, правда, но все равно будет. Так вот, скажите, вы планируете кому-либо передать разработку своей игры?
So you have mentioned once that you might add proper interface to the game, though not in a lifetime. So the question is, are you going to inherit development or DF to someone else in the future?
Well, it depends on how it happens. I mean, if people want to kill me and take the source code, I'd rather they didn't do that. But when I stop Dwarf Fortress, or when I disappear or whatever, the code will be released. I've already, the museum thing or whatever, I've already told them that when I die, they can go ahead and have a copy of the code. Just everyone's vultures eating my body already. But the oh yeah, someday you'll see it. You're gonna live longer than I am, so you'll see it. Everyone will see it. And if I stop early for whatever reason, I'm not gonna keep it. I'll just give it to everybody else. And I'm sure someone will. I mean, even if I just release it, someone will do something with it. Even if they use it to write their own game from scratch. So, I wouldn't worry about it. We're going somewhere. Something's gonna happen.
А вы знали, что в России среди фанатов вашей игры плавно растет культ вашей личности? Я даже слышал, что какие-то парни хотели основать всероссийскую церковь Тоади. Как вы к этому относитесь?
Okay, did you know that Russian fans are creating a real cult around your persona? I've heard someone even wanted to found a Russian Holy Toad Church, yeah? And okay, what do you think about it?
Well, I think that would be fantastic. I would love to have a Russian Holy Toads church. I would come to visit. Yeah, I mean, whatever you guys want to do, whatever you feel like you need to do, I'm all for it. It is a little creepy, but that's okay.
Что Что ж, я думаю, что настало время для финального вопроса. Скажите, примерно насколько влияют фанаты игры на ее развитие? Не только в материальную, но и, допустим, оказывая вам поддержку и предлагая необычные идеи.
I think it's time to ask the final question. So, how do fans influence development process? Do you use maybe any ideas brought up by the community?
Yeah, I mean that's there's a big influence there. Even though there are more suggestions than we can read now over at the forum, we can't just read them all every day. What I do when I get to a feature like farming, for instance, you guys talked about farming. When I get to that, I'm going to go to the suggestions section and just search the threads. There are people that are kind of helpful that kind of categorize the threads. And there's also the kind of the voting system. The reason we're doing job priorities after this release is because it was one of the top vote getters. So there's certainly people have an influence there. I'm not even quite sure what people wanted for job priorities, but I'm going to go look and check. It has to work with the game, of course, but there are a lot of good ideas out there, and people email me. People do ask the questions in the future of the Fortress thread where they put their suggestion in there and so on, and so I see them all, and it has an influence. And when people complain a lot about a bug or complain about some of the interface stuff, I try to help. I mean, obviously the interface is still bad, but I've taken a lot of suggestions about that and made it better. So yeah, certainly it's all meaningful to me.
Что же, огромное спасибо вам за интервью, мистер Адамс. Для меня было, честно говоря, просто огромной честью брать интервью, на мой взгляд, наиболее интересного разработчика игр. Причем спасибо вам не только лично от меня, но и от всего русскоязычного Dwarf Fortress комьюнити. Не только за интервью, разумеется, но и за всю вашу деятельность. Надеюсь, у меня еще будет возможность с вами увидеться. До скорой встречи.
And so, thanks a lot for your answers, Mr. Adams. It was an honor for us to have an interview with such an interesting game developer. Thanks again personally from us and from whole Russian Dwarf Fortress community. Not only for our interview, but also for all of your activities, I hope we'll have another opportunity to communicate. See you.
Thanks. It was great. It was a lot of fun. This was a fun interview. You too.